The second panel discussion will be on corporate governance, broad oversight of ESG. So joining us, we will have our moderator, Mr. Jamie Allen, Founding Secretary General, Asian Corporate Governance Association, to join us. Mr. Allen, please. And for our panelists, first we will have Ms. Jessica Chan, Head of Sustainability, MTR Corporation Limited. Welcome. And next we will have Ms. Melanie Kwok, Senior Sustainability Manager, Sino Group. Welcome. And lastly, we will have Ms. Rebecca Donnellan, Group Senior Sustainability Manager, CK Hutchison Holdings Limited. Welcome. So Ms. Inti Wong is supposed to join us today, but due to some last-minute urgent matter, she won't be able to join us. So moderator and panelists, the stage is now yours.
Thank you very much and welcome. For those of you who don't know our organization, ACGA, just a very brief introduction. We were founded in Hong Kong after the Asian financial crisis, and we are an independent membership association covering corporate governance in 12 Asia-Pacific markets. And we do research, we do advocacy, and we do educational work. So we do the G in ESG, and we see G as the foundation of ESG, so it really should be G at the front, not G at the back of the acronym. Very pleased to have a very interesting group of speakers this morning. We have Rebecca Donnellan, who's Group Senior Sustainability Officer for CK Hutchison. We have Melanie Kwok, who is Senior Sustainability Manager for Sino Group. And we have Jessica Chan, who is the Head of Sustainability for MTR Corporation. So we're just going to start with a sort of a personal question. I'll ask each speaker to sort of say a little bit about themselves, but also to answer the question, where have they made the biggest impact in their work, and what are they most proud of in their current role? So Rebecca, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Just to give you a little bit of an introduction to me and CK Hutchison Holdings. So for those of you that don't know kind of our scope and scale in terms of company, so we are a global conglomerate. With 4 core businesses, so ports, retail, infrastructure, and telecoms, 300,000 employees worldwide, and predominantly our revenue is in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, but we're not just a Hong Kong and Chinese company, so we are very much so global. We're not typically a very shouty company with respect to sustainability, but we are recognizing that we need to disclose more. Because we're doing some pretty incredible things. So just to give you a couple of points around the innovation that we're sort of pioneering on. In green hydrogen, which is one of the kind of hot topics of today, we are leading on a UK-wide program to convert the entire gas network in the UK through Northern Gas Networks and Wales and West Utilities, 2 of our infrastructure companies, to convert that network to hydrogen. In Australia, we're already blending green hydrogen, so in Australia first, in gas networks through one of our Australian companies, Australian Gas Infrastructure, and doing incredible things around solar. We've recently procured a wind farm in Australia, in Canada, so doing amazing things around innovation and clean tech. Our ports, we've got an ongoing huge program of electrifying our port handling equipment and infrastructure globally, so we're converting it from diesel to electric. So we're doing some incredible things, but we don't tend to talk a lot about it, so we're really working on increasing our disclosure, and it's just so nice to be here today with people. We do a lot of Zoom these days, but just to let everyone know, we're really working on our disclosure, and please do check out our sustainability report for more information. So I joined the group about a year ago, and I'm leading on sustainability at the group level. So we have our sustainability teams within each of our divisions. So we'll work hand in hand, and we really take a sort of a bottoms-up and top-down approach. So bottoms-up, we want each of our sustainability teams within our divisions to feel that they have the power to focus on what is most important to those divisions. But we as a group have been really working in the last couple of years on our group level strategy and setting certain standards around what do we expect from each of our divisions. So particularly with reference to more recently net zero, so we have sort of tasked all of our divisions to assess the pathway to net zero, look at science-based targets, calculate Scope 3 emissions, and report on progress using the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. So we really want to have best-in-class strategies with respect to climate action. Inclusion and diversity is another area. So we're taking more of a forceful approach at Group in recent years as to what do we expect from each of our divisions. So your question about, finally.
What are you most proud of?
Sorry. So what am I most proud of? So, I thought a little bit about this question, and I could point to certain targets or plans or strategies that I've been involved in over the last 15 years in sustainability. But I think for me, what makes me most excited and most proud, and where do I see the most the biggest responsibility of us as sustainability leaders within our organizations is really around culture change and really helping to facilitate and catalyze action, right? And being able to help people understand what their roles are in sustainability, whether you're working, at a port or at the front line, within a retail environment, or, at the executive level, or within treasury, finance, comms. Sustainability can't stay within the sustainability department, right? The actual work is done by the people on the ground. So for me, the proudest moments that I've had is when I've seen those kind of light bulb moments go off in people's minds around the action that they can take, whether it's a hard-nosed executive who, really just wants to know, okay, what's going to be the impact to the bottom line with respect to sustainability, and understanding that it's a huge commercial opportunity, right? One of the biggest actually within the world of today. Whether it's through a global sustainability network, which we set up recently to allow all of our sustainability leads to connect and collaborate, and just being able to see them, run with that and be able to start on projects together across our divisions that were typically in silos before with respect to sustainability. So for me, it's being that catalyzer and being able to facilitate change and putting the power in people's hands and helping to lower barriers where needed. I'll stop there.
Becca, just a quick question. You mentioned doing the work but not talking so much about it. So in future, I think you'll talk a bit more about it. But how important is disclosure internally, not just externally to stakeholders and shareholders, governments, but also for employees of CK Hutch?
Yeah.
You may not know all of the work you're doing.
Exactly. It's so important, and it's probably the most important thing with respect to engagement, because if they don't know what's happening, how can they feel proud? How can they feel there's something to be involved in? So different things that I've done in the past and working on now in CK Hutch is a global newsletter, sharing, what's happening across the organization. So internal communication is so important, whether it's through green teams, different networks. We've got to share internally and not just think about the external piece. Yeah.
Thanks. And Melanie, what are you most proud of?
Hi, my name is Melanie. I'm the head of sustainability for Sino Group. I have been in Sino for 11 years, and this year is actually Sino's Group's 50th anniversary. So I'm actually 1/5 along the journey with the whole Sino Group colleagues. So one thing that I feel like as a sustainability practitioner is actually the sentence called planting the seed of sustainability. And I think as a practitioner, this is very important because in my 11 years in Sino Group, it's not just about our department that is doing the sustainability report or executing sustainability strategies with the ESG steering committee, but more importantly is to actually embed the real sustainability DNA in each and every one of our colleagues. Because as you know, Sino Group is one of the developers in Hong Kong. We have footprints in Hong Kong, China, Singapore, Sydney. But we also cover hotels, properties, developers. So a lot of our colleagues actually are frontline. So it's very important that when we talk about sustainability in the corporate level, that we need to ensure that even our frontline colleagues understand what it means to be sustainability. So on that front, just quickly give you a very quick example on three examples. So on the governance, like you said, I also believe it should be at the front. We have our ESG steering committee. We established ESG policies, ranging 16 of them, from climate change to biodiversity to diversity, inclusion, women empowerment. So these are all like in a Sino Group sustainability policies. And on the environmental side, we are the 5th Asia developer that actually signed the Business Ambition 1.5 degree to pledge that by 2050 we'll strive for net zero carbon. And for social, looking around the room today, the reason why all of us can be here is because we all took vaccination. As you know, that Sino Group actually did a very amazing job to donate our flat in Grand Central to promote the vaccination rate. And I'm so sorry to say, I know none of you won the flat because I saw the winner. But don't worry, we are actually donating another flat for the lottery if the Hong Kong vaccination's gone up. So this is an example of how Sino Group cares about the community by sharing our assets with the community. And we also run a couple of charities and foundations to conserve the heritage. So, for example, we have a project Untitled Heritage Hotel, which is run by another NGO. We run Fullerton Hotel in Singapore. We also donate to the mainland China government to also help conserve the Great Wall in China. And also we work with a lot of various NGO on various fronts to also work for a lot of CSR projects. So our sustainability vision is called Creating Better Lifescape, which actually we have 3 pillars: green living, green and wellness, innovative design, innovation and design, and also community spirit, meaning community and heritage. And we really want to make sure that each and every one of our colleagues embed these values in their daily operations.
Thanks, Melanie. And I understand you have a green finance framework, and you did your first green loan in December 2018. Could you talk a little about that?
We actually have, since 2018, we actually have a green finance framework, which actually we work with the verifier, with the bank as well. But very recently, we actually had 2 more examples of our green finance. So we actually work with the Bank of China to have a $1 billion sustainability linked loan. And that linked loan actually across all the sustainability KPIs. So it's not just on the environmental, not just on the carbon emission, but also related to the employee as well as the community. And very recently, we are also one of the first developers in Hong Kong, again, to work with the Bank of China to have the green mortgage plan. So we believe that the green finance and also the governance level is also getting more and more important. So Sino cares a lot about climate change as well. So this year in our sustainability report, I know MTL has been doing that for many years, we're catching up. So we're also disclosing more on the TCFD standard. And we'll be working with consultants to also have our decarbonization plan as well as upgrading our TCFD standard across the company.
Great, thanks very much. And Jessica, over to you.
First of all, thanks for inviting me to join the panel discussion. Well, I quite agree with what Melanie and Rebecca said about the importance of, changing the culture in the corporation to make sustainability initiative happen and smoothly implement across the whole company. But then, in the past few years, actually, the sustainability landscape changing very fast. Well, I'm quite happy to be involved in the corporate, sustainability developments because in the past 3 years, we have been launching a lot of different initiatives and also formulate different, strategy for the co-corporation. Like we published our climate change strategy for the whole corporation last year. I think this is one of the, great efforts for my team to consolidate all the input from the company, not only in Hong Kong, but also in our overseas operation, like in London, Sweden, Australia, mainland China, and Macau, to, put all the efforts together to combat climate change. I think this is very important to get everybody know about what is sustainability, what is the major focus of the company in terms of ESG improvement. Because when we deal with different colleagues in different countries, they have different cultures. There are different regulatory requirements and also policy. And we have to understand their constraint and also what their expectation and also what their main focus. So put together all this to publish a climate change strategy is a huge effort. And also, it's not only a document written by the the top management, but also we have to make all the frontline people know what is it about, why we are doing this, because we are claiming MTR is one of the low carbon transportation modes in Hong Kong and in the country that we serve, but they have to know what's behind what we are talking about, why we are a low carbon transportation mode, and then this is a very huge exercise for us to make them know the driving force and the reason behind what we are doing this. So that's probably one of the key areas that we have to work on, not for now but for the future, because there are lots of things that's evolving in the few years. So I probably back to your questions. One of the most I would say challenging and meaningful areas that I could call example, because today is a ESG reporting award presentation ceremony. I can call one of the examples that I have been working with my team in the past 3 years on ESG reporting. I'm not sure whether you have read our ESG report in the past. Well, because there are lots of requirements, like the investor requirements and the GRI requirements. Well, normally, if you have disclosed all this information, you will have a very long report, what we call a phone book, like style reports, maybe probably over 200 pages. It's very difficult to find the information, and you will lose your interest in reading it. But then when I first joined the company 3 years ago, and we decided to revamp the whole report, because in the past we have more than 200 pages ESG report. We put all the information in there, so that's the investor and all our stakeholders can find the information from our public domain. But then after I joined the company, and we decided we have to have review the whole reporting process, and to make it more user-friendly, because we have heard already lots of feedbacks, comments from our stakeholders, and say, wow, yeah, you have a very comprehensive report, but then it is very difficult to find exactly that pieces of information from your report. So that's why we have revamped it 3 years ago, bit by bit. And first of all, we have separate the report. Some of the information will go online. For those, very static, perpetual information, we are not changing it quite frequently. We put it online. But then annually, we will update annual sustainability reports to put the, updates on the initiative, our latest commitment, and also our performance on the report. So for now, our reports from 3 years ago, we have 200 pages, and now we have only 60 pages. So I think this is a huge change within internally our reporting process, and we have to educate from the management, because we have to get the approval from the management from the changes, and also we get the the frontline support, because normally they have a lot of different initiatives. Because especially we have to cover also our overseas operations. And what we have to be included in the report is important. And then everybody wants to showcase their effort and also their achievement. But then how can we choose this, put into the report to make it more concise and give the top priorities and focus areas that we are working on, and to showcase to the public that is important. So I think it's one of the key tasks that we have worked on in the past 3 years, and we are quite happy now that we have a more concise and user-friendly report for now.
Investors will be very happy to hear that. Just coming to climate change, I was interested to read your climate change strategy. So maybe an unfair question, but how worried are your directors and managers about the physical risks of climate change? In particular, the obvious one, I guess, is flooding. we have some serious flooding and typhoons in Hong Kong. I mean, how badly affected would the MTR be if there was a serious flood because of climate change?
Well, actually, climate risks have already included in our enterprise risk, management, because we understand the impacts of climate change to our operations, because we have open sections and also we have underground stations, and you can see in the past the super typhoon when they came, the impacts they have already imposed on our operations. So that's part of our enterprise risk we have covered. And also, we will report this to our board. And so all our company, within the top level, well aware of our risk and also our mitigation measures. And also, we have done a first weather impact assessment every, 4 to 5 years to see how the adverse weather like landsliding, lightning, strong wind, temperature, and flooding affects our operation. We will identify the black box that we will have to take care. Let's say, for example, Hera is one of our black box that we have been taking care. The flooding issue, we have different types of new facility in place in Hera to minimize the impacts during flooding. So we are well aware of our black box, and then we are trying to mitigate the impacts gradually.
Thanks very much. Before we move on to further questions for the panel, does anyone have a question they would like to ask? I'll just pause for a short while. Yes, please go ahead. Microphone down here.
Thank you, panelists. I think one of the points raised is very important. It's the culture and the DNA. How we're gonna, advocate or educate among not just the board but also the employees. Any experience that you could share to the participants today?
Melanie, you've been at Sino.
Definitely. Thank you. That's a great question. Yes, I want to give an example that just a few months ago in May, Sino Group held a career day at the HKCEC Wan Chai, because during the pandemic, our management feels that it's very important to continue the economic development. So we actually, during the Sino Group career day, we strive to offer over 1,000 jobs across different age groups. And I remember that on that day, once the door opened, there was a lot of youngsters that came in, and we have different departments setting up their booth. And so my department is called Sustainability, and I have a very small booth, but had the longest queue. I have so many youngsters queuing up wants to apply job for sustainability and ESG as well, even though some of them, very interestingly, I asked them, so what is ESG? And they can tell me 3 different things that I have never heard of. But still, it just shows that the youngsters these days care so much about sustainability. And it was just so overwhelming. And it was very touched that our local youngsters, those graduates, they really care about sustainability. And so I end up receiving over 300 CVs. And I have to, sort of like the HR team and myself, have to sort of skim through them within 2 hours. And we pick the best candidate. So what it tells us is that nowadays I feel like in the job market, for example, people, when they look at a company, they also look at what the company ESG and sustainability performance is to choose the company. And so I think that's very good news for Hong Kong and also for the market itself. However, what we also see is that even though the students study sustainability or ESG, that does not mean that they have the skill set required in the corporate sustainability field. Because from what I have known, because I'm also a mentor myself in a couple of universities, and I know that the students are studying sustainability, they might not know that in a corporate sustainability, they need to look at sustainability report. They need to know what GRI stands for. They need to know what Hong Kong Stock Exchange is, TCFD. So our role as a corporate sustainability practitioner is actually we should work harder with the universities in Hong Kong. We should work with various organizations to help close the knowledge gap between these graduates that are actually very interested in sustainability and how they can actually equip themselves in the corporate sustainability field. So I feel like this is an example of how we can actually plant the sustainability DNA. Another example is that, as I have mentioned, we care a lot about frontline colleagues because our frontline colleagues is the forefront of Sino Group. And so during the whole COVID time, we actually have a project called Farm Together. And it's actually 10 farms in Hong Kong and 1 in Singapore. And we actually had some really great green wellness activities. We bring the frontline colleagues, we bring our management and our angels to come and do an 1-hour farm harvest event. And some of them comes to a rooftop, some of them comes to a hotel farm, and it's just 1 hour. And you don't need to have expertise skills to do farming. And they just actually pick up their favorite harvesting, and it was so much fun. And we did it in the office hour, so we're not asking them to come on a Saturday and Sunday. And actually, wellness is very important across the sustainability pillars, because especially during the pandemic, it actually tells us that we must care about our health and mental health, physical health. So these Farm Together project is also very important to help plant the seed of sustainability in our colleagues' mindset.
And Melanie, did your directors and senior managers join in the farming?
Oh, not only they joined, they actually helped to plan and execute the whole Farm Together plan. Our Sino Group owner actually came with us on an 8 o'clock in the morning and did all the harvesting together, and we all had fun, and that's the most important thing. So you can look into our LinkedIn, and we have a lot of lovely posts in our social media, and you can see the smiles are real, so they're not being forced. They're all very happy, and it's a very fun activity. This is just an example of what Sino is doing to plant the seed of sustainability in our colleagues' heart.
Literally planting.
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yeah, can I just add? I think a lot of people want to be engaged, and I think the topic of sustainability is just really very high on the agenda in the world of today. But I think there still are realistically barriers within an organization to actually engaging and actually making it part of everything that you do, and I think that's something that we all still need to work on. Companies still have financial KPIs. You know, over the course of my career, I have heard a lot from colleagues, we want to be engaged, but, can't get the budget, or we're not allowed to spend the time, we don't have the resources. So I think, now what is really going to make the difference is around, integrating it into those business processes, making it part of the budgeting process, making it part of Capex planning. And one of the really great things around the interest from investors and the financial community on green bonds, etc., is that we're all now launching, green bonds, green loans, etc. And that's also, part of that conversation needs to be around, okay, how do we integrate this into the Capex planning process? So I think it's, really, really to kind of embed it. It's got to be part of those really important financial-related, risk management-related conversations and integrating it rather than it being separate processes all the time. So one of the things that we've done is, a really important process that we have is what we call risk management and internal controls process. And luckily for us, our biggest champion on sustainability happens to be our group CFO. So we've integrated sustainability into that process. Every single business needs to present on climate risks as part of that process, as well as on bribery, corruption, and all sorts of other business risks. So it's an integrated thing. So it's not just, the sustainability leads that are told we need to think about it. It's the financial teams. And the same way when they present to us on Capex spend, we also need to think about sustainability. So I think that's what's really going to move the dial. In the next phase of sustainability is how do we lower those barriers, particularly when it comes to financial constraints, I think. Yeah.
And maybe your new building in Central could devote a floor to urban farming.
Maybe.
I'm sure Frank would be delighted with that.
Yes,
Economics.
collaborate, exactly.
And Jessica, do you want to talk about culture?
Yeah, I think we have to take different approach when we, instill the culture and the corporation, especially like a corporation like us, because we have different, quite a diverse, operation, and we have, across Hong Kong operations. And so we have, divided into different parts, like our top management, because luckily we have a very high-level board, committee to look after sustainability. And for, regularly we will, talk to the board and what our major focus and why we are doing this, and we can, secure their support. And after that, we will have a series of, management talks, inviting our executive to explain why we are doing that and what our major focus. And we will, maybe, using social media, videos, and different kinds of channels to deliver the message to our frontline people. And also for mid-level, management, because I think this is very important because they are executing the actual initiative. We have to instill the culture to them that you have to have an integrated, thinking on ESG. Let's say, for example, we are recently looking at how we can dispose some of our train after they are retired. And usually in the past, we will just, ask a contractor to collect it and then dismantle it and then, just sell it as a metal waste and so on. But then recently, we involved in that conversation. We're thinking whether we can donate some of our train to say, the school to teach a student how to use our network safely, and also, give them some, sense of social, life out there. And also, we are thinking to disseminate our train to donate some of the parks to the elderly home, so that they can, make some small tools to help doing some exercise. Well, actually, we are doing this for now. And so we have to, talk to them to let them know, wow, there's another way that you can, help to improve our ESG performance. You don't have to create too many waste. So I think that kinds of cultures that you have to talk to the people directly and demonstrate to them how we can do that. And so, I just have a meeting. We have a first meeting of our steering committee of discussing how we can, manage this retired train in the future. So we're quite happy to do that. And also for frontline staff, because we cannot, tell them, that's the international trend, that's the investor requirements. And so that we have to simplify it into a more layman terms to let them know why we are doing that. Yeah, so I think that's, we have to use different approach to different level of staff to make them know why we are doing that, the reason behind.
Thanks very much. Are there other questions? Yes, over here.
Thank you. This is Felix from Green Council. I just would like to extend the question of Tony. When we talk about culture, Tony mentioned about the corporate culture. How about because all the panel are a very big company, how could you influence your supply chain to adopt a sustainability culture? Yeah, because your supply chain typically is one of your biggest source of the Scope 3 emission. Thank you.
Yes, good question. How do you twist the arm of your suppliers?
Yeah, I can answer just from, particularly with respect to our retail division. So we have the largest health and beauty retailer in the world. A couple of different brands include Superdrug, Crap, obviously Watson's here in Hong Kong. So we have a huge sustainable supply chain engagement program where we do 400 to 500 audits every year. Obviously, last year, not as many happened, but on a typical year, 400 to 500. So we have, I think what's really important with supply chain engagement is also partnering with other organizations that are very specialized in certain areas, such as, say, modern slavery, for example, which is something that can go very unnoticed within supply chains. So we partner with the Mekong Club here in Hong Kong to give training to our procurement teams. They've also helped us to create a toolkit for our procurement teams to make sure that they're asking the right questions. And also we have a relationship with the Business Social Compliance Initiative, where so they will do the auditing of the factories. And I think a lot of factories today are also dealing with audit fatigue. So the beauty of of partnering with BSCI is that there are other retailers that want the same thing from the factories with respect to sustainability, and we share audit results through that platform, so they get uploaded. You know, if there's a zero tolerance issue, we all find out about it. So as part of those, we have separate social and environmental audits. And I think, you know, that's kind of the key way to say, look, hey, if you want to work for us, you know, these are the things that we expect. We have very clear guidance around, you know, you need to have a remediation plan by X date if it's this score. You know, if it's a zero tolerance issue, we give them, you know, a certain amount of time to fix it. We're not going to be the type of company that will just walk away because someone else will work with them that maybe doesn't have the same standards. We want to change things. So I think that supply chain engagement through that way. It depends on, what is your business. So on telecom side, we've been working on eco labeling for, you know, handsets that we're looking to procure, but also the communication that we have there with our customers. I think joining with other companies that are buying the same things from you and bringing all of that power together is really important.
Thank you, and very good question. For Sino, it's very important we align the sustainability goals and target together. So, for example, Sino Group actually has its own sustainability vision 2030, and those that are related to our vendors and contractors include things like we were the first developer to pledge a single use of plastic reduction. So we pledged that by 2022, which is next year, we will reduce around 50% of single use of plastic against our 2018 level. And when we set that target, we were quite ambitious. So what we did was we worked with our contractors, vendors, across the whole hotel, shopping malls to eradicate all the plastic bottles. So there's no plastic bottle you should be finding in any of our hotels in Hong Kong, Sydney, and Singapore. So we start as a proactive steps, and we ask our vendors and contractors to help us. So we work with vendors like Urban Spring. They actually set up the water filter, etc. So I think it's very important to align the sustainability goals together. Another thing is also Sino also strive to have all our new buildings to have the US WELL certification. And I remember we had a conversation before. So those that are working with our partners that are working with us to build the new buildings, then they are very well aware that we want to strive to get the US WELL building standard. So I think setting a clear target and also setting sustainability goals is very important right at the beginning, so that we can communicate very clearly with our vendors and our contractors and our partners, so that we can ensure there's a sustainability value chain across the operations.
Well, for MTL, we have a supplier code of practice, and then before we do our business, they have to commit to comply with our code of practice. And then we will have regular survey and also visit or audit with our supplier. Well, actually, we are now working with a new plan to see how we can better manage our supplier. Because back to 2 years ago, we have conduct a sustainability procurement roadmap for ourselves, and we have identified the top tiers of our suppliers that we have to have a closer look on their risk and also how they adjust and how they do the mitigation measures. So we are planning on that way to see what else we can do, and that's probably our future plan. But then on this part, we are not only look at our supplier, but we also look at our value chain. Just like you mentioned, your new building will go for WELL, and we have already pledged for our new property residential developments, we will go for BREEAM Plus Gold certification. Well, actually, we have already received some of the certification for our new buildings. So probably this is what we are looking for, the whole value chain. We try to work with them, and that not only just for managing the operation, but how to improve together.
Thanks, Jessica. Before we move on, could I just check with Sunny how much more time we have? Stop now? Okay.
Oh, no.
Well, we're not going to stop just yet, because I'm just going to ask each speaker to just make a final comment. So, Rebecca.
Oh my gosh, we speak about it so much. Well, I think that, we're speaking to the converted here. Everyone is passionate about, making progress in sustainability in their organizations. And thank you for having us here today. I hope we gave you some insights. I think sustainability is such a huge business opportunity, and I think that's what we really need to bring home with our our hard-nosed executives that care about obviously the bottom line. And luckily, in the world of today, the business case is so clear with respect to sustainability. So it's not it's got to be, at the end of the day, driving social and environmental positive impact, but it absolutely can positively impact your business as well. We've got to make that clear. So thank you for having me today.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today as well. And I think as we have been learning from our great peers and our friends, it's very important that we learn and improve together. And when I mean together, it's not just silo as a corporate, but also across different industries, with the government, with the NGOs, with the associations. I think that's very important. And I think today's Hera mentioning this ESG platform exemplifies a great example that we should continue to do that, so that we have platform to learn with each other and we can improve together. Because I think in the ESG trend, as we all know, that is drastically changing, as Jessica has mentioned. Every now and then we hear new terms, like every 2 more days and 3 days we see our peers writing sustainability in their LinkedIn. So I would say, being a sustainable practitioner for the past 20 years, I have never seen this trend just drastically going up. So I think we need to act fast, be more proactive, and I think we should learn more from each other.
Thanks, Melanie. Jessica.
Okay, I think to successfully implement the sustainability initiative in the corporation, top management commitment is very essential, because you haven't have the commitment, you cannot get the resources. So that's why I think this is the most important that we have to secure in the corporation first when we launch any initiative. But then how we can implement in the corporation is another issue that's very important. Sustainability is not just belong to the sustainability department. Okay, we have to work with the whole company. Different levels, so we have to engage different parties in the process, so that let them know what we are going to do and get the ideas and get the constraints and the expectations, so that you can have a more practical and realistic plans that you can roll out in the whole company to get the success. So I think that is important.
Thanks, Jessica. And I would just simply conclude by saying there's clearly a lot more going on in Hong Kong in this whole area of sustainability, and at the level of boards and management of major companies than many people probably realize. So watch this space. I think it's going to get even more exciting in the coming years. So thanks very much to Rebecca, Melanie and Jessica for a very engaging session. If we could thank them in the usual way.